Men, do you ever feel like you just can't get ahead? Like you're misunderstood? Like you have no one to talk to that truly hears you?
And women, are you often frustrated, hurt, and saddened in your relationships with the men in your life?
What if there were a community of like-minded men going through the same challenges that would support, hear, and understand what you're going through?
Working together in unison to create understanding, intimacy, and strong connections. That's the Way of the Illuminated Warrior.
Way of the Illuminated Warrior talk show is a forum of candid conversations for men and women about men. Being a man today is not always easy. Until now.
All right. Welcome to another adventure of the Way of the Illuminated Warrior talk show. I am Waska, Cuckoo Cuckoo, and I am here with Beth. Actually, I was going to say I am the sloth man, Cuckoo Cuckoo, but we'll get into that in a minute. So how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Waska. Nice to be with everybody again. I always wake up on these special days and say, "Oh, this is what I've got on my calendar today. Let's share some good stuff." So I'm happy to be here.
All right. Yeah, I put little stars on my calendar also. So for today, and actually today, I was joking before we started, like I just wanted to stay in bed today because today's topic is on overcoming slothfulness. Yes, slothfulness. You know, those creatures that hang upside down on the trees and just move like this? Yeah, really, really slow. And slothfulness, you know, like a lot of times people think the sloth is just lazy. I mean, the dude is just taking his time doing his thing. But yeah, generally, you know, we think of slothfulness as being lazy, not wanting to work, just want to sit around eating bonbons and watching Netflix, which who doesn't want to do that occasionally? So, but I thought about this topic because like right now I'm kind of feeling slothful, really primarily due to, you know, getting over this whole COVID effect, you know. So, but I look at it as there's two kinds of slothfulness for me anyway. Like what I'm going through now, not really lazy, but just feeling the effects of it, which we'll get into. And the other one, which I have felt slothful, just kind of being lazy and being unmotivated and not really wanting to do much of anything. I'm not a big bonbon boy, but you know what I mean. So
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. So have you experienced the slothful way of being?
Yeah. So you and I unfortunately shared this in common that we both had about COVID, and it really wiped me out. Like really, really wiped me out. I didn't have a ton of symptoms per se. It was more the energy thing, right? So I was, and to this day, there are days where I'm like, I'm still not quite, you know, the way Beth used to be. So I kind of took it as an opportunity for some extreme self-care. I listened very, very closely to my body, and I, you know, quote unquote, refused to just power through it, so to speak, because I don't want that. I don't want that pushing against. I want it to kind of organically flow, and my body will feel well in its own time, provided I do what I'm supposed to do, rest, lots of water, you know, all that kind of stuff. I've never made so much chicken soup in my entire life, so that's a medicinal must.
Send some my way.
Yeah, I'd love to. I've perfected a really good recipe, but probably like we'll all get over this eventually, the COVID slothfulness. But I certainly have gone through periods of my life where I'm going to call it a little bit lazy. Yeah, it's a little bit form of lack of motivation, lack of drive, lack of vitality. And I'm talking the kind that makes you want to get up in the morning and say, let's rock and roll this day. Most definitely gone through that on more than one occasion in my life. And do I want to say there's value in that? I guess there are life lessons to be learned from anything. So yes, I've experienced that on two different ways, to your point, of the two different kinds, for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a value in it in the sense of, for me, like the energetics of it. Instead of beating myself up, saying, "Okay, I really should be doing this, and I need to do this, and I'm not doing anything, and I'm laying around, and I'm being lazy," that, you know, I just take it as not necessarily like right now overcoming the, you know, the illness effects, but like when I have felt like like that slothful laziness that, okay, maybe my body's telling me it's time to just kind of like just chill for a while, rest, relax, reset, and get into that a little bit without beating myself up, because I have done the beating up thing in the past, also saying, come on, dude, get yourself moving here. And sometimes for me, that's counterproductive, that it doesn't really get me going. It just makes me more stressed out that I'm not doing anything, and then I'm trying to do something, and then it's not productive in that sense either. So I just, go with, okay, it's time to just chill, reset, and figure out what's the next step while I'm, kind of recouping and resetting and all.
Yeah, it goes to prove too, you made so many powerful points there, prove the power of the mind, because in theory and on paper, you have every opportunity right now, because you weren't well, to rest like me. So we should be resting, but man, oh man, get this thing going. And the next thing you know, self-beration is like my best friend practically. Like it's so easy to go there. Be mindful of the power of our mind and our thoughts, almost like minute by minute, for Christ's sake. Like you really have to pay attention to it, because it can really throw you down the dumper.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So with this COVID effect, I had a pretty mild case. I was out on a ski trip and I kept skiing and I wasn't really getting good rest. So that wasn't too bright of me. But, when in Rome, I guess, or when in Utah,
Yes.
I mean, I just
You
wanted
can't
to
you
ski.
can't ignore those beautiful
Yeah.
snow-filled mountains. You just
Yes. So I didn't recoup as fast as I could have. I haven't taken my supplements and all, but just mind-wise and the lethargy and all has kind of persisted, which I've heard it does that. So, again, the first thing for me, because I used to beat myself up, I'm not beating myself up. I'm like, okay, I'm blessed that I have the time and I could really kind of make my own schedule, so I don't have to really push myself to get more run down. So I have been resting, I've been taking my supplements, I've been drinking a lot of fluids, the things that you were saying, and really looking into it also, like what positivity could I take out of this time of slothfulness? Because my brain hasn't been 100%. I got to be totally clear about that.
Yeah.
It has affected my memory a little bit. Nothing super significant, but enough that I've noticed that I'm a little bit slower, like our friend the sloth. So I'm looking at that and saying, okay, take your time and see what, maybe there's some kind of I love the hidden messages. Maybe I make up the hidden messages. I don't know, but I love finding hidden messages that maybe there's something there that I'm supposed to really just chill and go slow and look at my life, look at what's going on in my life, and maybe find some kind of pearl of wisdom in there that I otherwise would be flying past, doing.
Absolutely. Take the opportunity while you can. It's almost the spiritual baseball bat. It hits you up the side of the head, and then I'm going to listen because I'm not feeling well. I'm going to listen. And we both know, because you and I are both students of meditation and mindfulness, et cetera, that those clear messages that come from afar don't come while you're in the middle of the grocery store, generally speaking, or in line at the bank or something like that. They can. I don't want to mislead anybody who's listening to this cast, but they can. But if you're looking for a really good, juicy aha moment, it's probably not going to come while you're at the supermarket. So we take opportunities like this to chill and connect. Connect down in your solar plexus and say, hey, what is in this for me? And you'll get something, right? You witnessed it many times. I have witnessed it many times. But it's that peace, be still. You have to be peaceful and be still. And then they'll come. And sometimes you got to wait a long freaking time, but they will come.
True.
Right?
Very true. I will say I've had some pretty profound experiences being surrounded by mangoes, but that's story for another time. So we can we can be shopping for fruit and maybe get those spiritual.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
I have to be very careful that I'm not saying that the universe is speaking to us all the time. all the time. I hear you.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the energetics, also we're actually we're recording this on Tuesday, 2/2/2/2/2. February 22nd of 2022, which we will not experience again in our lifetime. And it's known as a portal. 22 is a master number in numerology, and obviously the 222 and the 2222 offers that manifestation and clearing out things that no longer serve and all that good ethereal stuff that's going on. So it's a pretty powerful day today. So we could I thought about that this morning. I'm like, okay, it's an energetic and again a significant day in that realm. So maybe just draw upon that and maybe push out this slothfulness in this moment and going forward. So yeah,
I totally agree. And I thought about this. I was doing some readings on some clients prior to this call that we're on now, and the theme, they don't know each other. They just two different clients of mine, and the theme for both of them was about this clearing away things that no longer serve you. Now, most every time an astrologer sends out a newsletter of some sort, or the thing of the day kind of thing, there's a lot of that. I mean, we are always meant to be clearing out things that no longer serve us. But when you get a portal like we're having today, a more massive opportunity, more massive portal comes in. It's almost like having now we've got a great big bushel basket in front of us, and fill that basket up with a ton of things that no longer serve you. But you've got to do it again mindfully. You have to do it with some form of non-slothfulness, because it takes a little bit of effort to do that. And as you know, and our listeners will know, I live in Canada, and we are expecting today a massive amount of rain. So it's February, lots of snow. I'm looking out my window. There's tons of snow still out there, but they're calling for 20, 30, well, we do centimeters, 30, 40 centimeters of rain coming today. So February 22nd, 2022, it's like a great big flush. It's like a great big bath, big rainwater shower coming through. So it is my intention, after we're finished this call, while I wait for my next client, is to spend some time, and I was envisioning this big bushel basket. Let the rain come, and you spend some time, Beth, with your soulful self and decide. And I'm thinking, for me, which will get me out of my slothfulness, is I've got a couple closets that could really use a good clearing out too. And I'm thinking this is probably a really good day to grab a bag and send some clothes off to a local charity or something like that. I know, I'm just kind of sort of sensing that today.
Yeah.
So for whatever that's worth, this clearing out just doesn't have to be clearing relationships or clearing your own mind. It can be actually physically clearing things out as well, because then that changes the energy, right?
Absolutely.
It's the energy of that closet or whatever. It changes the energy of your home, which is important.
Yeah, really good point. And you were talking about serving clients. So for whoever is watching or listening, I think most of you already know, but besides for entertaining you folks on this wonderful talk show, Beth and I both are in service. We both do transformational coaching work and readings, and so keep that in mind as well. We're there for you, not just to entertain and to provide lovely content, but you could reach out to either one of us for some kind of reading or service work or whatever.
Absolutely.
We're about that as well.
Absolutely. There's so many ways that we can give back, Waska. We're just amazing creatures of the universe, aren't we? Many, many ways that we can give back.
We'll be right back after this. Hey guys, this is Waska. Listen, if you're hearing my voice, there are no coincidences. Are you ready to get unblocked and take the next step forward, whether it's with relationship issues, finances, or just moving into the next phase to elevate yourself? Listen, bros, this is what I do. I'm here for you. Drop me an email at WASCA, that's WASKA, at illuminatedwarrior.com. We will work on this together and take you to the next step. I promise you'll be glad you did. You probably heard this saying before, move muscle, change a thought. And that's like when we're stuck in some kind of funk, like literally, or even just as a saying, move a muscle, do something different, do like a stop the paradigm that's going on and shift into something completely opposite, go in the other direction, just to change the energy. And that's one good way really to get out of that slothful, lazy mindset. If it's something that's being pervasive, just do something different, something you wouldn't normally do, break the pattern, like a pattern interrupt, and do something completely different and see how that energy feels, to get out of that space. Have you tried that before?
Yes, 100%. And it oftentimes involves me getting out in nature, but taking like a different path, let's say. Instead of walking the same street I would normally walk, or we have a really lovely backyard, walking my backyard, and I touch the trees, and I put my hands in the snow, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll get in my car and I'll just drive to a different park, or just something different. And it doesn't have to be a great big deal. It could be the 2-minute drive down the street to a park I haven't been to for a long time. And I engage with nature, and it seems to just kind of cut through the quick of me being unmotivated or not being able to kind of get my butt in gear. That seems to be really, really important to me. But it took me about 30 years to discover that. But that's okay. Better, one of those better late than never kind of things. But I find that really, really helpful. Is there anything that you in turn kind of, like, some people do things with their hands, or they do one of these, or So do you have other things like that you do to move that muscle?
I know, like Tony Robbins is very into movement and getting people going, which is definitely a lot of value in that, just shaking it up, which I think is really good exercise and all. But like the road less traveled, like you're saying, is there's a lot of power in that, because staying in the same patterns day in and day out, yes, there's very good value to routine, but also when you get stuck in a routine that's not necessarily of your best and highest energetic empowerment, then it's really good to do something different and see how it feels. And a lot of times that's uncomfortable, which is good. Uncomfortable is good. Doesn't necessarily make sense, but it really is, because it takes us out of that comfort zone of that pattern that might not be elevating us or helping us to grow anymore. And if we stop learning, if we stop growing, then what else is there? There really much elevation of spirit, or even intelligence, or just growing, as we evolve, hopefully anyway. So I like to do that. I like to take different paths. In the Native American tradition, it's a couple. It depends on the tribe and all, but like the Shishindi or the Lakota, like the energy is built in a sunwise, clockwise fashion. So if we're doing ceremony or building a medicine wheel or whatever it is, things will be laid down or walked around or acknowledged, the way the sun moves in a sunwise direction.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
If you want to disassemble something, or take the energy in the opposite direction, you would walk or disassemble or take things out going in a counterclockwise direction. And in the park that I used to walk in when I lived on Long Island, everybody would always go in the clockwise direction. I don't know why, but nobody would go against the grain. And sometimes I was feeling like, okay, I don't really feel like I like the way my energy is going today. It's been, persistent and consistent in one direction. I want to go the opposite direction. People will look at me like, why is he walking this way? Why is he going this way? I'm like, try it, see how it feels. I see here all the time, you're always going this way. Try going and out this, the opposite way. Maybe that will be more balanced for you. But point being is to try different things and see how it feels, and equate the energy to something that you're not necessarily familiar with, and there could be growth opportunity and shifting the energy just in that alone.
Yeah, and that's really cool. I didn't know that, and I love learning things from you about the indigenous cultures, because they're so rich. There's just so much there. So thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
I was also thinking that in shifting those things, I think we sometimes sell ourselves short or cause a bigger kerfuffle for ourselves than we need to, by thinking it has to be a massive shift. So something as simple as you turning your body around and walking in another direction, even 2 or 3 steps, not a big hairy deal, but 2 or 3 steps in a different direction can cut through all that energy. And if there's one thing, every time I meet a client, now we're talking about my clients again, but a client for the first time, the first thing my guides tell me to tell that person is that it's all energy. That's the foundation of everything we're going to talk about. It's all energy. And that includes this pencil, and that includes this iPad that I'm on. It includes the air around me. It includes the rain that's coming, and my dog. Everything is energy. And sometimes they have to sit with that for a few minutes. They're like, what? Like, how can a pencil be energy? Well, if you take a piece of it, or you take a piece of your finger and put it in a microscope, under a microscope, and really, really enlarging it, you'll see it moving. It's this energy. And if you yell at it, it goes really fast. And if you tell it that you love it, it goes like this. It really likes it, right? That's where metaphysics, oh my gosh, what's his name? Greg Braden of the world. These guys that have really studied the science behind the energy was really, really helpful. Is very helpful, because now there's science to back up this stuff, right? Which is good for people like you and I. So when you say it's all energy, you can actually prove that it really is, in fact, all energy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Greg Braden is a great example. Also, if you remember Dr. Emoto, Dr. Masaru Emoto, who did all the work with the water crystals, freezing them and introducing different stimulus, whether it was like harsh, music with curse words, or beautiful symphony music, or just saying I love you, or writing gratitude or peace or love on vessels that were holding the water, and you would get symmetrical, beautiful crystal formations, as opposed to asymmetrical, really chaotic ones. And
right.
The point being is also which she also made, and very true in indigenous teachings as well, where it depends how old we are, but we're anywhere from like 70 something to 90 something percent water, depending, again, when we're younger, we're composed more of water, but we're living crystals. So, how we speak to each other, how we speak to ourselves, our internal talk, what we put out there is really, are we being symmetrical? Are we being asymmetrical in our energy towards ourselves, towards others? Are we spreading good, harmonious vibrations, again, out into the world? What's the self-talk that goes on in our heads? So we can actually create beautiful individuals, liquid crystals, or we can be very chaotic. And I think that's very true. If you work with a person and ask them what is their internal dialogue, how do they treat other people, how do they speak to other people, what's their whole affect in life, what's their belief system, how do they see the world, it really would support this point if you have a positivity attitude and a gratitude attitude, and you're just loving life. More than likely you're smiling, you're probably healthier, and inside and outside, and the converse is true as well. So there's a lot of value in our words, our thoughts, and how we express ourselves, for our own health as well as the health of everyone around us.
Absolutely. So we're individualized beings, but yet we're all part of the allness of it all, right? We're part of the allness of it all. So the same way, we'll go back a little bit to the beginning of our discussion about self-beration. When you berate yourself and you get angry with yourself and you tell yourself that you're angry with yourself, how is that helpful? Like, how is that helpful? Of course, to yourself, but I mean, sometimes the impetus to kind of jumpstart myself is to think, well, if you're thinking that to yourself, that's what you're putting out to other people. I don't want that for my son or my daughter or just got an Apple ID thing. Sorry.
That's okay. Just lost you for a second. No worries. It's the energetics of the world. Your computer is getting very slothful. It's going into sloth mode.
It is. This is the strangest thing.
Oh,
there you are.
It happens for a reason. It's okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I mentioned to you at the beginning too, I'm having my laptop worked on. So now my techie guy so there's just an example of life and energy. because I should have told him that I was going on to this important call and not to text me, but sorry about that, Waska. What was I saying about energy? Okay. That's
well,
my
let's
thoughtfulness.
shift gears. Talking about energy, we got Bruce in the background. You shared
Yes.
you're a huge Boss fan, Bruce fan. Now talk about energy. Like him in concert, like it's not like he's looking at his watch. This dude goes for hours and hours, and like every song is like, you tell me if you have a different experience. It's like it's going to be the last song he's ever played, right? With the energy he puts out there.
Oh, unbelievable, unbelievable. And I would have expected just from a logistic standpoint or from a physical standpoint, over the years that would start to slow down. Not a chance. I saw the last time I saw him prior to the pandemic. Just the same old Bruce, man. He's got a ton of energy and is prone to slothfulness too.
Yes, very good point. Yes, I've heard him speak and read his book, that he's gone through depression and slothfulness, and you know, music helps him get out of it. But yeah, if you want to share anything that he's shared, how he pulls himself out, do you remember?
Yeah, he quote unquote makes himself. What was an example I remember hearing in an interview? I know what he does. He brings his day down to little mini pieces of the day. Instead of saying, "Oh my God, I'm depressed. I've got the whole day ahead of me. I'm going to get a cup of coffee. And if I get that cup of coffee, I'm successful for today." That kind of self-talk. And then he'll tell his wife that he's having an off day, so to speak, and she knows to rub his back a little bit more, hold his hand a little bit more. So very, very small things. And then he says, the next thing you know, it's lunch. And I'm like, sandwich it is, and still not feeling very good in his head. But to have and it's not fortitude I don't ever like this, make yourself do it. I can't stand that actually, because I'm counterintuitive to the natural organic flow of what we want to do. But if you can, using him as an example as well, just have the fortitude, not the angry, going to get through it kind of attitude, just the fortitude to say, I can get a sandwich, I can get a cup of coffee. And that's progress for today. That's progress for today when you're having a slothfulness day, right? Yeah. And then of course, as soon what he does with that energy, is it kind of builds up inside of him, and then that's when the best music comes out after.
Yeah,
it's like he goes here to spring into music that brings us here. So, but such a creative being.
Yeah.
Discovered that at a very young age, how powerful music was going to be for him. So anyway, so even the Bruce Springsteens of the world.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a slothfulness.
Yeah. Well, and it's so important to celebrate even what we think about as the smallest things, because they are wins. It's like the 1,000-mile journey begins with one footstep. So you take one footstep at a time, and it doesn't become overwhelming trying to take everything on at once, just like you were saying that he does. If I get a cup of coffee and it's sitting and enjoying it, it's a success. So I think that's really important.
It's a success. Yeah.
And another thing you said, which I think was really key as well, like he'll tell his wife, how he's feeling, communication. So the world around us is kind of clued in, like whether we're at home with our partner or we're at work or whatever, that people know, like, and don't make assumptions like, wow, why is he being like that today? Well, they know why he's being like that today, because he's, feeling slothful or depressed or low energy, and then somebody else could be in service in that knowledge as well. So the communication key is really a very good factor to keep in mind, to let people know, hey, I'm feeling a little low today, you cut me some slack, or maybe I could use a little help with this, or, can you get me a cup of coffee? Whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be willing to be vulnerable around that as well, because we have tendencies, and we're taught this, and this is a bunch of crap that we're taught, that you don't express those kinds of things. Like, so look how prevalent now mental challenges are in the world. We're accepting them. Bruce Springsteen, for Christ's sake, got depressed. Like, wow. And we were taught never to say that, never to do that. And I remember as a child, Waska, growing up, my mother, now that I'm an adult and have done a lot of work around my childhood, et cetera, she was chronically depressed, but never, if she had any medication from our family doctor, I never saw it. And she was expected to, she was like the June Cleaver kind of stay-at-home mom. She had always had a nice dress on and her apron on and her hair was always good. But I could energetically tell, even as a little kid, she was depressed. She was slothful. There was nothing much motivating her, even though, she was married to my dad and she had 3 children. There's just some underlying, but I have compassion for her because it wasn't a thing that you were allowed to say. It probably took every ounce of strength, even if she ever did tell our family doctor and did get some Valium or something. It just wasn't allowed. But gosh, this sharing of how we're feeling, almost the millisecond you say something vulnerable, the other person will say, I can relate to that.
Right.
I can relate to that. Well, wow. Now we're all relating to something all at the same time, or at least have had that experience at some point in our life. It is so important. It is so important. Get that stuff out. Get that stuff out, right?
Yeah, very, very true. That's I remember back, my mom definitely was going through depression as well. And back then it wasn't socially acceptable. You didn't talk about it and you just suffered in silence. And it was almost like the norm of like, whether they were on, like I said, Valium, Librium, whatever the drug of the day at that time was, just do it and get through it. And that was life at that point in time. But now today, like you're saying, just putting it out there and being vulnerable. I mean, that's the power of like the men's circles that we do. It's like guys who will open up and share. And so many times guys will share that when I ask them, I'm like, do you get to do this? Is there anybody else in your life? And a lot of guys don't have anybody that they even feel safe or comfortable with, maybe a partner, but for the most part, even their friends, and I've gone through this with my friends, closest friends also. We don't necessarily talk about what's real, and when we do sit around and have that commonality and shared space and just being there for each other presently, in the present moment, it's amazing how whatever I'm going through, it may not be the exact same thing, but almost every guy could relate to, and it opens up other things that are going on for them. And then we get to share, and just the fact of getting it out there, just putting it out there and not holding it in here and holding it in here and holding it in here is so healthy to have that release. So it really is important to have a men's circle, a woman's circle, wherever you could have a safe and sacred space to be able to share what's going on and not keep it in, because that's where stress comes from. That's where that disease comes from, and it eats us up alive. So, and that will cause laziness and slothfulness also, all the things that weigh on us, so it's very important to have a support system and communicate and emote in that way.
Absolutely. And when you think of it, just even the way you were describing it, which was such a great way to describe it, I'm thinking about holding on to it. And just holding on to it takes so much darn energy that you'd be exhausted. You're exhausted from keeping it in. So there's the slothfulness again. I don't have any energy left because I'm holding all this crap inside of my system. And see, I'm even doing that with my hands. It's like this kind of crap. And if you decide that you're going to let it out, this is what happens, right? And the next thing you know, you are energized, revitalized. Something happens inside of us energetically. And I want to add to what you're saying, how much courage it takes to be vulnerable like that. Because just before you say what you're going to share, you don't have to, right? But somehow, some way, spirit, probably, I will call it spirit, talks to you and says, no, it's important that you share in this vulnerable state what you're going through, and you get to choose maybe just a little bit for today. I'm going to keep the rest to myself because this has been here for most of my life, right? But once you kind of get the ball rolling like that, it becomes easier and easier. Then, to your point, you surround yourself with great men, great women, people of support who are willing to support, and you realize, oh shoot, I've been holding that in for a very long time, and that could have been released a long time ago. Again, no point in berating yourself for it, but realizing that once you kind of get into that groove and you start to share, it feels really, really good. It feels really good. Then you might get a little afraid and go back home and say, oh God, why did I tell everybody that? Why did I tell everybody that? But,
well, that's where the vulnerability comes in, and the trust and the sacred space, and that it's not going to be gossip afterwards. And yeah, that's part of the process. That's why having an intentional group where we all agree, it's, you know, unanimity, where we're not going to share what my brother's telling me, because
sure.
otherwise he's not going to feel like he can share that with me if I might go out and start talking to our other friends about it. So that's a big part about having a safe and sacred circle. Also, it has to be,
Sure.
you know, that common, we're here together, we're supporting each other. We're not going to speak outside of this venue, this circle, this sacred space, about what anybody else is sharing, you know, and that's powerful. You know,
I have a question for you about, I have two questions. One is would you say that there's quote unquote more value from doing one in a circle of a number of people, as opposed to you sitting in my living room and we're having a cup of coffee and you share something that's of a vulnerable nature? Like, what I guess I'm asking what the value is of being in a circle. I know it's related to the indigenous cultures, et cetera, but if you could share that, if I don't know about it, I bet you a lot of our listeners don't either.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Very interesting question. Well, yeah, when you say the circle or the spiral, obviously just energetically, you know, things build, everything goes in spirals and in circles, you know, from our birth to our, you know, adolescence, to our wisdom place, to our elderliness, to our back to our death, and, you know, all that type of things, everything in the natural world also, you know, bird's nest, the wind, the seasons, the cycle. So a circle is a very powerful expression of sharing energy and being present for each other. So the circles that we have with the guys, when guys show up, and when I say show up, I don't mean physically, obviously they're there already. They show up where they're willing to just sit and listen, and what we call holding space, rather than like pointing fingers or saying, well, why didn't you do this? Or you should have done this. There's none of that. We're there with the intention to support each other. So the power of having more than just two people face to face, and having other brothers who are like, you know, just acknowledging, validating, and also sharing their experiences that we're all relating to, and we're all there for each other, lifting each other up emotionally, spiritually, energetically. If you haven't experienced it, then I welcome any guys who are watching or listening to this to check it out, because it's so empowering. So in that sense, to know that it's a quote unquote community or tribe, there's a lot of power in that, you know. So on the other side, having just a one-on-one, that's extremely powerful also. It's different. So like I work with guys one-on-one. Some guys are not in the mindset or physically, emotionally ready to sit with anybody else, because they've been in this cocoon, this shell, this, you know, this chrysalis that they can't bust out of, and they really need to first build trust with like a counselor, a mentor, a friend, a bro, whatever it is. So there's a lot of value in that. And then I really feel like bringing that out into the world, doing service, and doing service is being in that community circle with other brothers. That's like a natural progression to me of spiritual elevation, of brotherhood, of community. So they're not mutually exclusive, as in like just do one and don't do the other. But a lot of times it's starting on a one-on-one, and building that trust, building that presence with each other, and being able to do that for yourself as well as other people, and then taking it into circle with the other bros.
Gotcha. So, you know, and you're right, everyone is different and everyone's had variants of the same experiences. So to find even that one person that you feel safe with, like so much of us walk around planet Earth not feeling very safe. And you know what? I have to share with everybody who's listening. Right now, the rain just started. It's pouring rain here, which is so beautiful. I'm going to take that as a good sign for our conversation here today.
Yeah. Let the cleansing begin.
Exactly, exactly. And I'm on my closet. I'm coming later. I'll be there shortly. So just having that place to feel safe. So I could feel with your description, feeling safe one-on-one, super cool. Feeling safe amongst 5, 6, 7, 10 people, however many people are around a circle. That's grace. Like that must be a very grace-filled moment. Wow. That feels so good in my heart. That feels awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's powerful. I'm sure it doesn't have to be this, esoteric circle where we're, sitting cross-legged in prayer. When you're with your sisters, with your friends, and you have that connection and it clicks, and you're not just talking over each other, but you're really listening and supporting each other. It's a similar type of thing. And I know women more than men naturally commiserate that way. They're not necessarily which guys I don't want to say we innately do it, but we're taught to be like builders, hunters, fixers. We were like, well, do this and, buy this and tie this on here and not we want to fix everything. And that's what we do a lot of times with our counterparts, our partners, where she's not asking for anything to be fixed. She's just asking to have you there presently to listen and validate. And that's a big lesson guys benefit from learning also. It's like, dude, Unless somebody's saying particularly to you, hey, how do I fix this? Which is very rare, especially in relationships and emotions and stuff. It's more like just sit there, be present, listen, and validate. It's really that simple. And that goes with your partner of the opposite sex in that relationship, or your brothers or sisters. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter.
I remember. Actually, you just brought up a great memory for me. When I was in my training to be an intuitive therapist 30 years ago with Sonia Choquette, we spent hours learning how to listen. And most of us were women. We were probably 80% women and 20% men in this particular class that I was a member of. When you receive guidance like you and I do, intuitive guidance, everybody can. We just choose to hone in on it. And I just chose to focus on it. When you receive intuitive guidance like that, it's so natural to just want to blurt out the answer, right? So someone's pouring their heart and soul out. They're having a difficult time, whether it be with their relationship or their children or their career or whatever. It took me a long time because I'm chatty by nature, as you can tell. And I'm just a kind of in-your-face kind of girl. I'm not a quiet kind type. So I always felt like I could just jump in and but over time, the guides would say to me, just chill, just listen. And I've always got my chart with me, right? Every client gets a chart. And I wouldn't even look down at the chart. I would just let them take over my hand and write what I needed to write. But I'm staring at that person and I'm very, very closely listening. And sometimes I'll repeat something later on in the session, and they don't remember that they said it. So that's how intently it is important. I'm not blowing my own horn here. I'm just saying how important it is to very much listen. And sometimes I think we're taught kind of sort of that over the course of the years of our training, probably WASCA, is that you repeat. Well, at least I do this with my husband. So he'll say something like he's frustrated with his business partner today because this is what happened. And I repeat. So if I hear what you're saying, honey, I think you're frustrated with your partner because of this. Is that correct? And then sometimes they'll say, no, that's not what I meant. Okay, good. So express something different, right? So helping people, jump-starting them a little bit by listening and repeating, I think can be very, very helpful. Get them out of their slothfulness.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that acknowledgement and validation, we all want it. We all need it. And it's that mirroring also, like you're saying, mirroring back what you heard them say. And also it's another exercise. I think I've shared this before where I will hold the mirror up for a brother. And I've done it for myself. I've had other guys do it for me. Not always easy to look in the mirror.
No,
we don't always like what we see. We don't always like what we hear. It's a really powerful exercise. to be able to do that without getting angry, without getting resentful, without pointing fingers, without knocking the mirror out of out of somebody else's hand. And it's very, very powerful when you are ready to acknowledge what you see, what you said, how you feel, who you are, what you're putting out there, and be okay with it also.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's, some apologies necessary. Sometimes there's forgiveness necessary. Sometimes it's just celebration, but being able to do that, it's a powerful thing. Yeah.
It is. It is. And going back to our slothfulness too, we can not just get slothful in action, but we could experience some slothfulness in that respect too, where you just get a little too comfortable holding that stuff in, intuitively that this needs to be healed, this needs to be brought to the light, this needs to come out. But no, I'm not going to do that. Not today, maybe tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, not tomorrow, the next day. And the next thing you know, you've gone years and years and years without taking care of this I'm sorry thing or this forgiveness thing.
We'll be right back after this.
Do you sometimes feel down, lost, or lonely? Are your finances feeling sluggish? Can your relationships use a healthy tune-up? Don't fear, bro. Help is here. Experience the benefits of connecting with other men who are going through similar challenges. Be supported in our safe, sacred, and inspiring monthly telecircle with the Brotherhood of the Illuminated Warriors. Connect with WASCA for one-on-one mentoring with the first session completely free. What have you got to lose? Check out illuminatedwarrior.com or send an email to waska@illuminatedwarrior.com. You're invited to step up your game and join us. You'll be glad you did.
But I find what sometimes people have loved ones that pass away and they didn't take that opportunity. They got a little too slothful, not taking care of what needs to be healed and taking care of before a loved one makes their passing. That's even harder work, right? Now you've been slothful for 30 years, 35, 40 years, 50 years, whatever. And now that person's gone and you don't have the same opportunity. Now I believe there are ways you can still clear all that, but you don't have the same opportunity. So we've come a long way from thinking slothfulness is just you and I having COVID and not feeling very well. But it's on many, many layers and elements of our lives.
Yeah, very, very true. Yeah. So, kind of wrapping it all together in my mind, it's, which I always say, almost everything is a choice. So, I could choose to stay in bed all morning, or I could choose to push myself up and take a shower. And speaking of the slothfulness, I'll say it's more organic rather than, posed from a virus. When I have been feeling lazy and all, and you probably experienced this, I'm sure a lot of people have. The last thing I want to do is exercise or run or jog or work out, but I do it anyway. I'll just jump on my yoga mat, and wow, it's like that just supercharged me and juiced me up. And yeah, maybe I'll feel tired again after that, but it does generally actually elevate my energy level, which seems counterintuitive. I'm tired, I'm lazy, I don't feel like doing anything, but now I just did exercise. But wow, it just awakens my body. So again, it's just doing something that maybe doesn't seem like it's intuitive to do, but it's getting out of your own way, getting out of your head, and finding the motivation, even if you gotta, do something that doesn't necessarily feel good, do it anyway, try something.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I even find sometimes to shake that up a little bit is I'll just try a different kind of food or something. Like if I'm feeling like I'm in a bit of a funk and I do go to the supermarket, I'll look at, I don't know, heirloom tomatoes or something like that I've never bought before. I'm going to give that a try because it is energy. It's energy and nutrition. Of course, we need that for our bodies. But when you introduce something different into this mechanism, this energy field, when you're feeling stuck, that could just be enough to change it too. Just that little bit, right? Or I'll try a new tea. I like to drink tea. Actually, I don't like to drink tea. I'm just lying to all our listeners. I don't like tea, but I know I'll admit that because I'll get off this call and I'll get off of this talk show and I'll think, why did you lie to everybody? No, I'm committed to trying different tea because I think there's value nutritionally for me to have tea. I'm just not a big fan. But so I will try, just buy a few little packets of some interesting tea. And I'm learning it does, in fact, change my energy field to try something different.
I'm laughing because if you ever watch Ted Lasso,
oh, I love that.
He hates tea. He's like, it's like dirty water kind of thing. So I'm just thinking of that when you're saying that. It's like, I don't know what he doesn't understand why anybody over in the UK drinks tea. It's terrible. So, but each to his own, right?
Each to his own. Well, I'll share this quick little story with you guys. My husband was born in the UK. His family moved to Canada when he was 12. So he had a good chunk of his life in the UK. And they give their kids tea when they're like 3, 4, 5 years of age, right? So he had his taste for tea. We get together. I hate tea, as I just mentioned. And I'm going to be a really good girlfriend at the time. Like, I'm going to make him a cup of proper British tea. He asked me never to make him tea again. That's 30 years ago. I've never made him a cup of tea because I couldn't do it right. I couldn't make it just right.
Proper English tea from a Canadian woman who doesn't like tea. I see disaster in the making. Yes,
I'm surprised the relationship survived, Waska. We should have called it quits back then. Anyway,
broken up over bad breakfast English tea. Yes. Well, beautiful. So what would you like to leave our audience with today on our...
Well, I'm gonna go with slothfulness there can be value in it. In respects to personal and extreme self-care. Sometimes we do need to bathe more, sit around and watch Netflix a little bit more or whatever, just chill. Just chill. Read a mystery novel or something and just chill. And that might not look and seem to be as productive as most people would think. That's a lazy day. Just think of the value that you get in it. There's value in having some slothfulness days. It's when that day turns into the next day, and you're not sharing the gifts of the universe that you're meant to share. Now we've got trouble. And that's to the point of almost this whole conversation. Move, get out, try something different, move in a different direction. I love that. In fact, I'm going to try that. Someday when I'm at a shopping mall or something and you see everybody moving in the same direction, I'm going to turn around and go the other way and see what that feels like. Just again, tiny little pieces. It doesn't have to be a big part of the recipe, just a tiny little piece. Take it easy on yourself and mind your thoughts. That's my story.
All right. And she's sticking to it. Yes.
I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you have to finish off sharing?
Well, yeah, I love what you said. I will reiterate the same, get out in nature, do something a little bit different. And I would say, like, if anything, not put pressure on yourself, but set a intention, set a goal. And it doesn't have to be anything grandiose, just like we were saying with Springsteen, have a cup of coffee and relax and chill. But whatever it is, set some kind of a goal or intention that will move you a little bit forward. And again, one step at a time, and do something to move yourself out of that slothfulness. Because, slow and steady, I always say that slow and steady wins the race. I had 2 African leopard tortoises for 23 years, so I saw the value. Actually, they were pretty quick. But slow and steady does win the race. So the sloth moves very slow. Eventually, he scratches his back and gets the, fruit off the tree. So there is value in that, but also setting an intention and moving forward one step at a time. So
great. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful. Hopefully
for sharing.
Our audience got some pearls of wisdom out of this conversation. Tune back in again, because Beth and I will be pondering other fabulous topics for your entertainment and educational value. So until next time, continue to illuminate your paths with loving kindness.
Always.
Visit IlluminatedWarrior.com if you'd like to go deeper and find out more about what's available within the Illuminated Warrior Men's Transformational Community. Tune in next time for more candid conversations for men and women about men on the Way of the Illuminated Warrior Talk Show. Until next time, illuminate your path with loving kindness.